Woo! This is The Fight Guy. I'm your host, Guy Pert. Yes, I'm live from Ian Gary's hotel room. You can see his chair behind me, unoccupied for the moment. I'm going to give my full breakdown for UFC 314, who I think is going to win every single fight, including my top 5 bets to make. If you're going to be a degenerate on this card, do it responsibly. Watch The Fight Guy. Take my picks. At the end, I will have an exclusive interview with UFC fighter Melquizael Costa, MELK, the only fighter to, off the top of my mind, who's got 2 wins already in 2025. He's looking to get back on in June. We'll be interviewing him in a few hours. I'll add his 2 cents on the featherweight heavy UFC 314 card, and then I'll post the full interview probably separately, maybe tomorrow, maybe later tonight. We'll see how I feel. But we're going to get right into the full card breakdown, starting with the very first fight. On the prelims, Nora Cornolle versus Haley Cowan. Don't want to spend a whole lot of time here, just going to highlight, some things that I've noticed. Like I've been heavy on this year, since this channel's existed. Fighters, especially coming off of a loss, but taking more than a year and a half layoff, that's my sweet spot, about 18 months. A lot of people will take a year off, that's common, but anything more than that, I start to get suspicious. And Haley Cowan, with only 1 fight in the UFC, losing in April of 2023, it's been 2 years since her last fight. I'm not going to go with the inactive fighter. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this breakdown either. I just think Nora Cornolle is going to get it done. She's got 7 finishes. Yeah. 6 knockouts, 7 finishes. Almost every single one of her wins is a finish. Those are the type of things that you like to see with women MMA fighters, because most of the time it goes to decision. It might be a bold pick to go Nora via knockout. I don't think Haley Cowan's ever been knocked out before. I think she's only been submitted. Yeah, she's been submitted twice. I'm kind of thinking Nora's going to knock Haley Cowan out, but I think the safe pick here is Nora via decision. Either way, I don't see Haley Cowan getting it done. Moving on to the next fight on the prelims, Tresean Gore versus Marco Tulio. Tresean Gore, Ultimate Fighter finalist. He's 2-2 in the UFC since winning the Ultimate Fighter Season 29. Or he didn't actually win. I think Brian Battle won that, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, 4 fights in the UFC. 2 wins via submission, which is impressive. Knockout loss to Cody Brundage. And then a respectable loss to Brian Battle. So, Tresean Gore, he's not terrible. Just I don't think he has a whole lot of experience. 6-2, doesn't even have 10 pro fights. Marco Tulio, I think this will be a second fight in the UFC Dana White Contender Series. 2 Dana White Contender Series wins here. You could see 1 in 23 and 1 in 24. The last 2 fights were knockout wins. The last 3 fights were knockouts. Last 2 UFC related. So I'm going to go with Marco Tulio to probably knock Tresean Gore out. He's probably going to get the win via TKO. I don't see Tresean Gore submitting Marco. I think he's a little bit too well-rounded on the grappling front, and I don't think he's going to be able to take him down. I think Marco's going to control the pace, land some strikes. Tresean Gore will probably go for a desperate takedown attempt. And yeah, he's gonna visit the sleep paralysis demon most likely Saturday. We move on to the next fight. Sumudaerji versus Mitch Raposo. A lot of people are hopping on Mitch Raposo's bandwagon. I didn't think he was even impressive in his Dana White Contender Series fight. Come at me if you will. I think Sumudaerji is just way more well-rounded. We'll click and look at his fight history here, if my internet wants to cooperate, in this hotel room that Ian Gary and his wife do activities in. Yeah, 3 straight losses, 2 via sub. He's on a bit of a skid. I still think, look, Tim Elliott, Charles Johnson, Matt Schnell. Oh, gosh, a loss to Matt Schnell does not look good. He hasn't fought since October. Mitch Raposo, this will be his debut? No? Oh, he lost to Andre Lima in a split decision. Yeah, I'm going to go with Sumudaerji. I think he's going to get it done. I don't think Mitch Raposo's anything special. I guess we'll find out Saturday. I'll admit it when I'm wrong, but I have a gut feeling that Mitch Raposo is going to blow that fight. So, last fight on the early prelims, Cedric Dumas versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Off the top of my head, I don't know why. I just know Mikhail's going to win this fight. just based off of strength of schedule alone, I mean, he's a well-rounded guy. He has good performances, he has bad performances, but he's fought some of the best in the division, or at least some of the up-and-coming, well-rounded guys. Like, look, Shara Magomedov, his last fight, lost unanimous decision. A lot of people thought Shara Magomedov was going to knock him out, especially after he got submitted by Kevin Holland. People forget he dropped Kevin Holland. I know that was middleweight Kevin Holland, but he dropped Kevin Holland within the first minute of the first round. It might have even been sooner than that. And then Kevin Holland, just a fight IQ thing. Mikhail was a little bit impatient when he went in to get the finish on Kevin Holland. He should have given him space or let the ref stand him back up, but he went in for a sloppy finish, got caught in an armbar. Happens to the best of them. Michael Pereira lost via submission. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang knocked him out. Kyle Barallo. I mean, those are his last 5 fights. And when you look at Cedric Dumas, he's never fought anybody on the caliber of any of the last 5 fights Oleksiejczuk has had. I mean, if you look at this, the only name you're really going to recognize is Cody Brundage, and that's not good. So not much else to say about this fight. I think Mikhail's going to knock him out. I think he's a real seasoned UFC middleweight. Cedric Dumas hasn't had any impressive fights in the UFC. I mean, he beat Cody Brundage via unanimous decision. I think he only has 1 finish in the UFC, if that. Are we going to count the Dana White Contender Series submission win? We're not going to count that. This guy doesn't even have a finish in the UFC yet. To say that he's going to win a decision fight against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, which even if he's winning the fight, he always goes for the finish. I'm going to root for the guy that wants to do damage and wants to always hunt for the finish, not the guy that just fights to win. I'm going to go with Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I'm not going to say much else about that. I think he's going to knock Cedric out by the second round. We move on. Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa. Darren Elkins. It's been a little while since we've seen him, I believe. No, I'm thinking about somebody else. This is going to be a good fight. I think Julian Erosa is going to dust Darren Elkins. I think Darren Elkins is going to rely on the takedown. It's going to be a similar situation to the Tresean Gore Marco Tulio fight. I think Julian Erosa has much better striking. I think he's going to control the pace on his feet, which it's not a matter of if, it's going to be a matter of when Darren Elkins is going to be forced to shoot for a sloppy takedown. And I think Julian Erosa is going to fend the takedown attempts from Darren Elkins. So I'm going to go with Julian Erosa to get the decision win. I went back and forth. This fight is going to be a violent fight. It may not go the distance, but if it does, I think Julian Erosa is going to win a decision win. Or he could knock Darren Elkins out. I could see that. Darren Elkins, 40, featherweight. We just saw what happened to Josh Emmett, 40, featherweight last week against Lerone Murphy. People are going to say what they want to say. They want to say Lerone Murphy was a boring fighter. He handled that fight very professionally, honestly. What else can you say about that? He fought to win. And, some fans like that, some fans don't. Personally, I'm a fan of damage. I'm a fan of a guy that is going to search for the finish. Even if he's winning the fight, and that's a whole nother story. I've already kind of discussed Lerone Murphy and Josh Emmett, but the point is relevant. I think Darren Elkins is just going to be too little, too late, too slow for Julian Erosa, and he's just better, a little bit better everywhere. So we're going to go with Erosa via decision. Next fight, this is my favorite fight on the card. I'm a huge Chase Hooper fan. I've loved this kid since the Dana White Contender Series introduction. I haven't heard of him since before the Dana White Contender Series fight. I like Chase Hooper. He's got really good grappling, man. He was training with Mikey Musumeci before his last fight. A lot of people don't know that. Mikey completely dusted him because that's all Mikey Musumeci does. 16 hours a day is train jiu-jitsu. But Chase Hooper, he's slick, man. He's really good in the scrambles. I understand that's what Jim Miller kind of strives in, but Jim Miller, I don't think this is a great matchup for him just with the time he is in his career. I think Jim Miller should only be fighting veteran, people in similar status to him. It's obvious, he's not going to fight for the belt. He's not going for gold. He's just doing this because he loves to do it, which props to him for taking this fight because I think Chase Hooper is absolutely going to dust Jim Miller everywhere the fight goes. I think he's got better striking. He's got a reach advantage. He's how old? 16 years younger. I mean, Jim Miller does have more UFC wins than Chase Hooper has years on planet Earth, but I'm going to go with youth over experience on this one. I think Chase Hooper is really good, man. I think he's really good, and he's probably going to submit Jim Miller, but I could see him getting the TKO. I could see him, knocking Jim Miller down, Jim Miller being savvy enough to not get put in a terrible position to get submitted, but still a bad enough position for Chase Hooper to deal ground and pound. I think Chase Hooper is going to get a TKO victory, but I could very easily see a submission, rounds 2 or round 3. We move on. Xiaonan versus Virna Jandiroba. Geez, some of these last names. Not as simple as Guy. That's something I don't like to see. This is a good fight. This is a good female fight. There's only 2 female fights on the card. I think both of them are actually going to be good fights, and I think both of them, we have a possibility of neither of them going the distance. I think Virna is going to outbest Jan in this fight. It's a number 1 against a number 3 contender in the strawweight division, I believe. Not that a whole lot of people paid that close attention to women's MMA, but guys, let's be serious. This is going to be a good fight. I think Jan's got better jiu-jitsu, a little bit better grappling. We've seen some holes in Verna's game when it comes to grappling, but I think she's just way better in the striking. I think, she's got a slight reach advantage of an inch, so it's about equal. I think that this fight's going to be more on the feet than we think. I don't see Jan going for a takedown unless she gets severely damaged, which I'm kind of hoping Virna, stuffs the takedown attempts. I'm going to go with the Brazilian to win via decision this fight. Don't want to spend any more time on that one. We move on. Just thought I'd take a wee little break before I get into the main card predictions. Still here with Ian Gary's cuck chair behind me in the corner. If you're enjoying these breakdowns, if you like my videos every week, I really appreciate that you would like this one. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I am going to insert a little clip from my interview with UFC featherweight Melquizael Costa, one of the hottest prospects coming out of Brazil right now. He's 2-0 so far in 2025. I don't believe any other fighters are. Maybe just one. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but 2 wins already in 2025. We're going to get his input on the featherweight heavy UFC 314 matchups in just a moment. Moving on, last fight of the featured prelim fight. I want to start with the Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson fight. I'm just curious to kind of get your input on how you think that fight's going to go.
This is crazy, bro, because Dan Ige very push the hand, but Saúde
he's a grasshopper.
Very tall, very tall.
Yeah.
Man, this fight, I don't see look fight. Eu não consigo ver sendo uma luta boa. Porque o Saúde ele pontua muito, daí ele vai caçar para bater, mas eu não sei como é que vai ser. Sinceramente, eu não sei, porque assim, o Dengue é muito pequeno perto do Saúde, o cara é um gigante.
Yeah, I think he's quite shorter comparing to the other one, and I have mixed feelings about it. I don't know, he scores a lot, but in the meantime, the other one is really tall, so it's gonna. I have no opinion about it. It's kind of crazy fight.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
My opinion. I'm sorry. Saúde. Every time three hard and pontuação, fala pontuation.
Scores. He scores.
Scores. Tá. Procurando distância. E daí vai todo o tempo caçar para pegar. Se entrar uma mão, é fatal. O problema é que o Saúde é muito alto. Vamos ver como é que vai ser. Eu tô curioso pra essa luta.
Yeah, I'm just curious about this fight.
We're all very curious about this fight, as well as the next few ones. They're not going to get any easier for you, Milkman. This is really going to be a fantastic fight. It's going to end one of 2 ways. Dan Ige is going to knock Sean Woodson out, or Sean Woodson is going to get the decision win over Dan Ige. Dan Ige has never been finished. He's definitely had the tougher schedule. He's fought a lot of tough guys. Even in just his last 5 fights, Lerone Murphy, Diego Lopes, Andre Feely, Bryce Mitchell, Nate Landwehr in his last 5. Yeah, he's won 2 of those. One of them via knockout. But he's never been finished, so you got to give Dan Ige his props. He's got one of the best chins in the featherweight division. He's one of the most durable, tough guys in that division. Sean Woodson's vulnerability is on the ground. He has been submitted before, but he's a decision fighter. He's going to fight to get the decision win. Sure, he did just get a knockout over Fernando Padilla, I believe his name is. at the end of 2024. He's got wins over Alex Caceres, Charles Jourdain, in his last 5 fights. But, the only time he's lost is he's been submitted. I think that Dan Ige, if he's going to win this fight, I think he's going to knock Sean Woodson out. I don't see him going for many takedown attempts. It's just really hard to grapple with Sean Woodson. He looks like the grasshopper from Bug's Life. Look at this guy. I'll add a picture in there. But, yeah, I think Sean Woodson is going to get the decision win, but I would not be surprised if Dan Ige actually knocks Sean Woodson out if he found his distance. I mean, he's fought lengthier guys, Diego Lopes, Lerone Murphy, that are bigger. They look a little bit more built, but Dan Ige's durable. We move on, finally, to the main card. First fight, Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. This is a banger fight. Every fight from here on out is a banger fight. And the fights that we've had up to this point have all been better than every single fight on UFC Vegas 105, but I'm not going to tear into it that much. All right, I have beef with the Apex. Nikita Krylov, we haven't seen him in a couple years. Check this out. His last fight was a submission win against Ryan Spann, which honestly isn't that impressive. Ryan Spann, I'm not even sure if he's still in the UFC. If he is, he should be cut. He has absolutely zero grappling skills. But nonetheless, that was March 11th of 2023. There were still people wearing COVID masks at that point. It's been a while since we've seen Nikita, so for that reason alone, as you know, if you watch this channel on a weekly basis or even once a month, I never go with fighters. Very, very, very rarely, unless it's like a Chase Hooper or Dustin Poirier. I would never go with a fighter that takes more than a year and a half layoff. It's just, they're never the same when they come back unless you're like a John Jones. Speaking of John Jones, Dominic Reyes, debatably the only person to ever beat John Jones. If you know, you know. He's coming off of a knockout against Anthony Smith. A lot of people dogging Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith isn't that good. He could have been a lot better. He is a very decent fighter. And to knock Anthony Smith out in the second round, I think that's an accomplishment to be proud of. Coming off of a knockout win, he says, I watched his media day. He said this is the best that he's felt before a fight. A lot of fighters say that, and they'll be hiding like a broken femur or some shit. But I believe him when he says it. Dominic Reyes, he's dealt with injuries in the past, and he's been vocal about them. And he says, look, this last fight camp against Anthony Smith was the first time I was not dealing with an injury in like 5 or 6 years. So for the multitude of reasons, Nikita being more than 2 years off, Dominic Reyes has the momentum in his favor. Recent momentum, December 7th, knockout win over Anthony Smith. I'm going to go with the underdog on this fight. I'm going to go with Dominic Reyes to get the knockout win over Nikita Krylov. I think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns, and in this division, not like a whole lot of others, it just takes one hit and you're done. I think Dominic Reyes is going to find that punch before Nikita Krylov finds that takedown, so we're going to go with Dominic Reyes, and that is going to be my first bet. All 5 of my top 5 bets are all on the main card. My first bet is Dominic Reyes to get the knockout. It's plus 350. It's the best props of my top 5 bets. We move on. Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. This is the fight I feel most people are looking forward to. It's kind of split equally between maybe Michael Chandler and Patty and Bryce Mitchell and Gene Silva. Of course, everybody wants to see Volkanovski, prove that he's still got it. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like 20% of the fans are most excited about Diego Lopes and Volkanovski. And then it is like 40 and 40. Split even for Bryce Mitchell, Gene Silva, and Patty Pimblett versus Michael Chandler. But I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell for this fight. I mean, Gene Silva just has holes in his game. It's obvious he's not the best grappler in the world. That's his weakness. However, he's got hands like Josh Emmett. I think, he's got that one-punch knockout power, but I think he's more technically sound. He plays games in there. He'll bark at you. He'll talk to you. He'll do hand gestures, and then he'll put you to sleep 2 seconds later. I don't think that's going to work against Bryce Mitchell. All right, this is a battle of heaven versus hell. This is a battle of good and evil, and good always wins. Bryce Mitchell, thug nasty. He's going to submit Gene Silva. I think he's going to take Gene Silva down. Maybe not the first takedown attempt, maybe not the second takedown attempt, but Merab's 49th takedown attempt against Peter Yan, it's going to work. He's going to take Gene Silva down. Maybe not the first round. He's going to take him down the second round. And if it goes to the third round, he's going to take him down the third round. And I think he's going to find that submission. I don't think it's going to be easy. You know, I think Bryce Mitchell is probably going to take he's going to take a decent amount of damage this fight. But I'm relying on him to pull that dog out. You know, Jesus Christ is looking out for him. And he's going to submit Gene Silva. But I want to get your thoughts on the Bryce Mitchell-Gene Silva fight. That's a big fight. Of course, Gene Silva, he's Brazilian. First off, have you ever trained with Gene or anybody at the Fight Nerds? And then secondly, how do you see that fight going?
Já treinou com o Jean já em algum momento?
Não, ainda não treinei. Ele é meu amigo, a gente conversa direto. Eu já falei que eu vou treinar na academia dele lá. Eu tô devendo uma visita pra eles. Eu conheço bem todo mundo lá, o Caio, meu amigo também, o Uf. Mas ainda não tive a oportunidade de treinar.
Kai, both of Jim, they are all my friends. We've been in touch a lot, but we never had the opportunity of, fighting, training together.
Okay. And what about, do you think, how do you think that fight's going to go? You think Bryce Mitchell's grappling is going to be overwhelming for Gene, or do you think he's just too much for Bryce to handle on the feet?
O que você acha do grappling do oponente do Jean? Vai ser muito, vai carregar muito, sobrecarregar muito?
Eu sou suposto a dizer que o grappling do Bryce Mitchell, tirando o campeão, o grappling dele ou é o melhor ou é o segundo melhor da divisão.
Mitchell,
campeão.
Mitchell grappling, starting the champion, either the first or the second, the best for the division. He's grappling.
Yeah. His grappling's insane. I think it's going to be a bit of a problem. I'm just as excited to see that fight as I am for the Sean Woodson fight, as I would to see your fight in June. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm fired up. I hope you get on that card.
Sobre a luta, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My vision. Jean, man, you have your mission in the hand. But eu vejo favoritismo. Eu não vejo um grande favoritismo assim. Eu vejo um leve favoritismo do Jean, que eu acho que ele entrou na mente do Bryce Mitchell. Só que eu não sei como foi a preparação dele. O Jean também tem um bom jiu-jitsu. Mas ele não pode deixar o Bryce Mitchell grudar nele, porque o Bryce Mitchell tem um ótimo grappling, entendeu? Mas o Jean, eu acho que ganha por nocaute.
Yeah, probably Jim is gonna win by knockout one. The only thing that Jim has to be aware of has to do with the clinching situation, because Mitchell is really aggressive this way. So keeping the distance and trying to knock him down, knockout him.
That's really good insight. Yeah, no, he's got to be careful in those clinches. I didn't think a whole lot about that, and that's why I'm asking the professional. A lot of people are excited for this fight too. This is such a good fight. Top 5 ranking fight. This is a top contender for the featherweight division. The winner of this fight, Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. Pitbull's UFC debut had a lot of success in other promotions, especially Bellator, multiple-time champion. This is going to be a very bloody fight. I don't see this fight going the distance. And that's why I'm going to side with my Mexican counterpart, Yair Rodriguez, to get the knockout win. That's the third bet of the card. We're going to go with Yair Rodriguez to get the knockout over Patricio Pitbull. This is going to be a dogfight. I think Yair's got really good kicks. I think he's really creative with his kicks. He'll go to the head. He'll go to the body. Spinning heel kicks, front kicks right to your teeth. The elbow knockout of Korean Zombie. Everybody's seen 1,000 times. This guy's one of the shiftiest strikers in the division. You can't argue that. All right, you can't argue that. Patricio Pitbull, he's really good everywhere. I mean, we look at his record, 13-2 with knockouts, 11-1 with submissions. He's really good at grappling. I don't think that's going to be a huge factor this fight. I think Yair's, scrambly enough to keep it on the feet. I think both these guys are going to stay on the feet, and we're just going to get a slugfest. Maybe a couple clinches against the cage, but I think Yair knocks him out in the second round. So I'm going to go, third bet of the card, Yair Rodriguez via knockout, plus 275. We move on to the co-main event of the card, Michael Chandler versus Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Both, I want to say new fathers. Michael Chandler, he has a couple adopted kids, but I believe his first blood child, we'll say blood child, that sounds very dark, but his first, biological offspring was produced just a few days ago, I believe, a week ago, something like that. Michael Chandler is a girl dad now. Paddy Pimblett's got twins. So, these guys, they've been friendly on the media day. When they step in the octagon, it is going to be nothing but the opposite of friendly. They're going to both try to take each other's heads off. I think Michael Chandler more so than Paddy. Paddy's going to be defensive. He's going to fight a little bit like Lerone Murphy, I think. He's going to fight really safe. He's going to make Michael Chandler play his game. It's hard for me to pick on this fight because Michael Chandler, you can count him out. He could be down 2 rounds, a minute left in the third round and land one overhand and good night, thanks for coming. It's over just like that. For that reason, this is also a 5-round fight, I believe. I believe this is a 5-round fight, which I haven't heard anybody else mention. But Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett, I believe, is a 5-round fight. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go on the record. I'll look like a dumbass if it's not. But I believe this is a 5-round fight. I have this fight going over 2.5 rounds. That's my 4th bet. Over 2.5 rounds. It's a plus 105. You'll double your money. If this is a 5-round fight, which I believe it is, even if it's not, I think Paddy's going to be very defensive. He's going to be really safe, and Michael Chandler's going to be the wrecking ball. Michael Chandler's durable. He's always in the best shape of his life every fight camp. He tracks every damn calorie that he consumes. Couldn't be more opposite for Paddy. Paddy will eat anything and everything up until like 2 weeks of his fight. So despite Michael Chandler, I believe, being in better physical shape, being better conditioned physically, I think Paddy Pimblett is going to get the win. But my official bet for this fight is over 2.5 rounds. It's plus 105. I think that's a safe bet. If you're not a huge Paddy fan or a huge Michael Chandler fan, I do have Michael Chandler's dad on my sweater, Dustin Poirier. But let's not get off the beaten path here. I think Paddy Pimblett is going to get the decision win against Michael Chandler. But this going over 2.5 rounds is my official bet. We move on to the last fight, the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason Bruce Buffer wears that suit, that special good-looking suit he does every week. For fights like this, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes for the featherweight strap. Man, you can't go wrong with either pick here. I like both these guys a lot. I wouldn't be that distraught if Diego Lopes won. I wouldn't be, I would probably be devastated if Volkanovski lost, but I don't think he is going to lose. I think Alexander Volkanovski still has it in him. I think old man Volk's going to get it done. Not necessarily via finish. I think that Volkanovski will probably get the decision win, but my official bet for this fight, my 5th bet, my last bet, is it's a double chance here. Alexander Volkanovski to get the win via knockout or decision. Diego Lopes, I don't believe, has ever been submitted, and I don't think Alexander Volkanovski is going to be the guy to do it. He has been training with Craig Jones for this camp, which I believe he's been doing for his last few camps. But Diego Lopes, he's been knocked out twice, never submitted. Sure, he's on a tear right now. I think only one loss in the UFC to Mazvar Evolov. Pretty good loss to have. Love him or hate him, Diego Lopes has all the momentum in the world riding with him. But Volkanovski, man, everybody's counting him out. Especially, since his first loss to Islam Makhachev, he's just gotten more and more doubters. And I don't want to be one of those. I think Alexander Volkanovski's going to get it done, man. I really hope he does. I've really come to like him more and more as times went on. But I think Alexander Volkanovski's going to get the win. So via knockout or decision, my official pick. Those are my predictions for UFC 314. It's going to be an amazing card. And I'll post a separate video with the full interview so you guys can watch it. Learn a little bit more about one of the hottest prospects coming out of Brazil right now. And this is the episode 24 of The Fight Guy. I will see you soon.